George, help me here and help me demystify formats.
Ah, yes, formats. Yeah, that's right. We deal with formats not only in the camera, but also in post-production. We deal with it in both places. Starting off in the camera, it's where everything begins. Generally speaking, today we've got two formats to choose between, and they are JPEG and RAW. And most people understand JPEG because, you know, if they've graduated to a bigger DSLR type camera from a compact point and shoot, JPEG was the format in the point and shoot camera, so that's what they're familiar with. And JPEG's fine. It's fine, it gives you great quality images, but ultimately RAW is going to give you a little bit more flexibility. It's going to give you a little bit more latitude in the image. Whenever you, for example, take a slider, an adjustment slider in your software, you'll notice that if you push the slider a little bit too far on a JPEG, the image tends to fall apart. But with a RAW image, we can take that same slider, drag it a little bit further out, and the image never loses quality. So people should be aspiring to shoot RAW on the camera.
Do you think people understand that JPEG is a compressed file?
A lot of my students, for example, they've heard about this, but they don't exactly understand what that means. They don't understand the impact that it has on their picture quality. If we have our camera set to the wrong setting, we can see compression artifacts in our images, and those things are carved in stone. When the original has artifacts in it, we're in trouble.
Hard to get rid of.
That's right. That's right.
So your suggestion is if you are an aspiring photographer and want to make better pictures, you should stick with your RAW files.
Absolutely.
And work from there.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we're talking about the formats in the camera, and then it changes once we get to the computer. What happens there?
What happens there kind of somewhat depends on what software program you've chosen to do your editing and your managing. For example, if you've chosen to just use Photoshop or Photoshop Elements, when you begin your editing work, as you make changes, it's very, very important to understand that if you're using JPEG, that is a lossy format. And what that means is you can be subject to image degradation every time you save your changes, close the image, and open it up again.
Yep.
So if I'm in the middle of a work session and you know, my significant other calls me for dinner, I've got to save to preserve those changes. I go have dinner, I come back, I open up that image again. Doing that is a recipe for disaster if it happens many times on a JPEG. So what I would say is while the picture is a work in progress, you should change your format to either TIFF or PSD. And this is simply an option in your Save As dialog box. So when you're ready, you've done your edits for the day, File, Save As, give it a name, and also change the format at that point from JPEG or TIFF.
So even when you open a JPEG, you should probably immediately save it to a TIFF file, and there's no
absolutely
loss.
You hit the nail right on the head. Right away, before you do your first edit,
Yep.
change that file format to TIFF. It's the best thing to do.
Yep. And that way there's no loss on your image.
That's right. That's right. Now, if you've chosen to shoot RAW on your camera, that's a little bit different because when you've chosen RAW, your photograph's going to open up in a completely different little area of Photoshop. It's actually going to open up in a little plugin called Adobe Camera Raw. And at that point, we're not doing any saving. What we're going to do is we're going to perform our edits in Adobe Camera Raw, and when we've got the right look, when we're ready to finish the job, so to speak, at that point, when we transfer the image into the regular Photoshop working environment, it's only at that point that we would choose TIFF or JPEG. So we can do a lot of edits before worrying about changing it from a RAW to a TIFF or a PSD.
So this is what we call processing from a RAW file and transferring it into a TIFF file.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, in the world of Aperture or Lightroom, it's a little bit less of a headache because all of the edits we do are registered in the program's database. And they don't really touch our image, so to speak. They don't actually bake into the image until we're ready to finalize it, boot it out of that program, and use it to create a slideshow or to print it, that sort of thing. So it's only at the very, very end do we concern ourselves with choosing TIFF or PSD, whatever it happens to be.
So George, now we have all our photographs, and why don't we talk about platforms of distribution, like Facebook, for
Sure,
instance.
for sharing your images among others. Yeah, absolutely. Facebook, of course, undoubtedly is very, very popular these days. One other one that's also very popular and that is designed specifically for photographs is Flickr. And there are a few more out there. SmugMug is another popular one, and a few others. Even Apple has their own mobile me service as well.
This brings me to a brand new app that is new to the market, and in fact I want to introduce it now. It's called Photo, and this is where you'll be able to post your photographs in Photo Share, and in fact go into the forum called Photo Forum, and if you want some advice or a critique or even a direction of what to do with your photographs or your photography, this is the place to put it.